It's Tuesday, February 22nd, 2011. The radio program's on the air on the Fan Radio Network, Sirius 97 and Rogers Sportsnet, the nation's most listened to sports talk presentation. Primetime. Bob McCown. Sorry about the voice. Nothing I can do about it. It's the best you get. Stephen Brunt, who will do most of the talking. I will do most of the listening, as is usually the case.
You're hanging in there, Bob, though. This is like a portrait in courage, I think.
It's like a marathon. I'm down to the last hour of this marathon. Kiprios will be with us a little bit later on. He knows no short sentences. And Pinball Clements will be in here, who can talk with the best of them, too. So fortunately, you're going to hear little from me and a lot from you. Speaking of guys who know how to talk, here's our legal beagle. Here's Rob Becker. Hello, Becker.
Hello, Mr. McCown. I hope your voice gets better soon.
Thank you so much. It's less my voice and more the rest of me. Now, I don't want to be... I'm no Alabama fan. Don't get me wrong. But this story about the trees at Auburn, the Toomer's Corner trees, I had to chuckle when I heard the story, to tell you the truth. If you understand the rivalry between Auburn and Alabama, it's like Florida, Florida State, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, UCLA. Think of the great rivalries in college sport.
Within the same
Amherst
state.
Amherst and Williams, is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's like a gang war, that one, Amherst versus Williams.
Yes.
The Sharks and the Jets.
So, yeah, it's not dissimilar to that. So here's what I guess this is... So the situation, people should understand this. They have this tradition at Auburn. They have this row of trees. Mm-hmm. And when they win a game, they put toilet paper on the trees. And I guess the allegation is an Auburn fan or a bunch of Auburn or Alabama fan or a bunch of Alabama hoodlums poisoned the trees?
Yeah, I think it's one guy, that, at least so far, that they fingered.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a conspiracy.
If you tend to see things that way.
So
no, there's a grassy knoll here somewhere.
Do you think someone else, the guy's name is Harvey Updyke Jr., which I think is a great name, by the way.
It is an excellent name.
So you think Rob did this right now? As far as we know at this moment, he acted alone, but Bob is suspecting.
You think it's a single shooter?
Well, I think nothing. I'm ignorant.
Counselor,
like
don't you have an opinion on anything?
I know nothing but the fact of my own ignorance.
Colonel,
I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. Could be 1, 3, maybe. Who knows?
Sergeant Schultz and Socrates. They're both they said the same thing.
So here's the thing. Brunt goes out every other weekend and slaughters innocent fish.
Yes.
And he gets a license to do it.
Yes.
This guy killed a couple of trees. He's going to jail.
Yeah, but it's their property. I mean, that's the difference. I mean, I know what you're saying, that I agree the animals are a higher form of life than plants. I get, and the animals know they're alive and plants don't. But the fish that you're fishing aren't property. These trees are their property. And if you intentionally cause damage to property, that's a crime.
Now, how is it?
And that's what this guy apparently did. If the damage was over $2,500 under Alabama law, he can be given between 1 and 10 years in prison. That's the law.
What now? How did Harvey Updyke Jr. allegedly hurt these trees, and how did he get caught?
Well, the second part I really don't know. The first part is he was accused of using an herbicide of some kind. I don't know how it seems like the kind of crime actually that you would get away with unless somebody watched you do it. Maybe it was not in the dead of night. Otherwise, I don't know how you would trace something like that. I suppose you could check all plant stores and see who bought a lot of herbicide lately, but that probably wouldn't be enough.
Yeah. So he at some point sprinkled something on the bottom of these trees, and the trees presumably started to look unwell. Is that
well? Not yet.
They're going to. They're right now taking steps to remedy the situation, but they can't remedy it completely. In other words, they know that some of this herbicide will be absorbed in the natural process, and you will see it in the trees, leaves, turning the wrong color and falling off. And there's only so much they can do, and they're going to have to wait and see. So that's.
All right.
That's the situation.
Here's the most telling legal question I've ever asked.
Okay.
Here's what I know. If you try to kill somebody and fail,
yes,
the punishment is less than if you succeed.
That is true.
This guy tried to kill some trees. What if the trees don't die?
Well, even if they don't die, they could still be damaged. The question is, have you damaged property? So let's suppose...
Well, but wait a second.
The leaves fall off, they turn another color, they look ugly. You've damaged them, but you haven't killed them. And all this crime is only talking about damaging property, not killing property.
Well, no, but let's get to the perspective. Like, we have murder, manslaughter, attempted murder.
Yes.
Right now, what is he charged with? Can't charge him with murder. The trees aren't dead.
Yeah, criminal mischief, damage to property worth over $2,500. You could probably figure that out right now. Like, supposing there right now, the fact is that there's various agricultural people are in there trying to save the trees, right? Now, you could maybe put a value on the process of fixing it, how much that costs.
All right, so they're like surgeons at a hospital.
I suppose, yeah, and you could figure out what the doctor's rate is worth.
The guy comes in, he's been wounded, they're going to try and fix him up. If they fix him up and he walks out the door, can't charge him with murder.
Yeah, but you can charge him with damage. You can charge him with assault and battery and etc. And that's what this is like. This is like damage to property, only it's damage to a body. It's the same thing.
Nah, you're missing the whole point. He's been charged with first-degree criminal mischief.
Yes.
Like, if the trees are okay, does it go down to, like, second-degree criminal mischief?
Well, I think that they already have established that they're not okay.
How about attempted criminal mischief?
No, he succeeded in committing, if he's the guilty party, he succeeded in committing criminal mischief because he did indeed damage the trees even though he didn't kill them.
But you don't know, they haven't been damaged yet.
Either live or die, they can't be injured. Where did that come from?
You lawyers are all the same.
Now this is, Becker, I've never heard the term first-degree mischief, but this is what the guy's charged with, right?
Yeah, no, that's not an unusual criminal phrase. It's not like an Alabama thing or anything like that.
No, but does that mean like premeditated mischief?
Alabama thing.
In this case,
like the good old.
It has to be intentional.
This ain't no good old boy law, right?
Yeah, no. Occasionally you come across crimes that are very unique to the state, but criminal mischief, that's not an unusual one.
Okay, but the first degree thing means that he thought about it. He did.
Yeah, he intended to do it, and he caused over $2,500 damage, and that's why he could get 1 to 10 years.
Man.
How do you determine whether it's over $2,500 worth of damage?
Well, I'm sure his lawyer's going to argue that, but you could talk about the amount of money it costs to fix the situation. That's how I would do it. I mean, I don't know what other way you could really determine the damage other than the money that you spent to fix it.
Okay, so, Counselor, let me ask you this. You're defending this guy, this Alabama fan.
Yes.
You get, springtime comes, the trees are fine. You get the bill from the arborist.
Yes.
$2,450.
I would try to put that in evidence. Sure, I might try to delay it even to see if I would talk to my client and say, what did you do, so I'd get a good idea of whether I thought the trees were going to go down or not. But if I thought the trees had a decent chance of surviving, I'd try to delay everything till the next season and
springtime.
And show, hey, it's less than $2,500.
Now, McCown, of course, you know the value of trees better than anyone.
I have many.
Yes. So what I bet they cost more than $2,500.
Yeah, but there's a whole lot of people. See, we have tree lovers in this province.
So this is like an Ontario thing as opposed to an Alabama thing.
Oh, no, I'll tell you, I got a lot of neighbors would like to call, have this guy's phone number. Come and kill some of my trees. Because when you want to you can't chop a tree down in Toronto. It is, in your own property. The hardest thing to do is to get rid of a tree. You got to get a permit to chop down your own tree. And they're hard to get. Believe me, I've tried. So what you do is you look for a guy like this.
Harvey Updyke.
Harvey Updyke in the middle of the night. Hey, Harvey, here's $20. Come kill a couple of my trees, will you? This is going on all the time. As we sit here right now, there are nefarious types creeping around the city of Toronto, doing fatal harm to trees at the behest of their owners because the city won't let them chop them down. So you go, oh, well, look at it. I got to take it down now because it's dead. Look at that. I didn't kill it. There it is. It's dead. Got to come down now.
Is this,
I ain't lying.
Have you noticed that McCown's starting to sound a little bit like Letterman or something? I'm just sitting here. It sounds more like a comedy routine.
I'm not lying. It's true.
Yes,
it may be, but it's still funny.
Am I lying?
No, you're not lying. As far as I know.
Like in New York, do they care if you chop down a tree? There aren't any trees in New York.
I never heard about anybody getting in trouble for chopping down a tree in New York. Yeah, but that you can find them.
Yeah, but when's the last time the only trees in New York are coming up through the pavement.
Well, there is Central Park, as you know.
Oh yeah, that's true. But have you ever seen anybody with an axe in Central Park?
No, because if
They run like hell.
No, wait. Let me rephrase that.
I would remember that.
Let me rephrase that. We've seen plenty of people with axes, but with the intent to actually chop down a tree.
Definitely not.
Okay, we got to move on.
We can talk about this beer thing?
Yeah. How about this beer thing, huh? So Molson Coors signs a $350 million deal with the National Hockey League for beer sponsorship, right? And Labatt says, just a bleeping minute. We're the beer of the National Hockey League, and we were in negotiations or whatever, and now they're threatening to sue, huh?
Well, it depends about what terms they had agreed on. I mean, what they're basically saying from their quote, where they say that we've agreed upon the terms of renewal of a sponsorship agreement. That's what they've said. So they're trying to bring this under there's cases what you call this doctrine of agreements to agree. So if you are negotiating a deal with somebody and you haven't signed a contract, but you've agreed on what are all the key terms, and granted, you can have an argument what the key terms are, but I think in this situation, the key terms would be the amount of money and the amount of years, and I think that, you know, it's in other words, if all that's left is detailed terms that you know always get dealt with,
right,
then you know you might have a shot. You might have a shot. Number one, of suing for breach of contract, and also what they might do is sue the other company and say, you know, you tortiously intervened with our contract, with our agreement, and say, you know, you should have kept out of this. But in the same time, you know, Daly seems to be ready for this, as if to say, no, we didn't have anything in place. So maybe they're going to come up with the league will come up with arguments that, hey, you know, we didn't. There were some major terms we hadn't agreed. We never did decide how long it would be. We didn't decide how much the money would be. And you just assumed that you knew what everything would be. So, I mean, this will come out, you know, if this were to really go to trial, you know, you'll have a bunch of oral testimony about who said what to whom, and maybe a few letters back and forth and emails, and, you know, it could get expensive if they really fight it out.
Yeah,
let's read between the lines here. Here's what Labatt is alleging. We were working towards a deal.
An extension,
yeah, but whatever. A deal, and you turned around and did a deal with Molson Coors and didn't even tell us about it. You just announced
it.
That's
tough. I mean, if that's all they've
that's
got,
cold.
That's not enough.
That's not enough?
That's not enough. Oh, you know, we were dealing with you in good faith. We were negotiating, and then you turned around and dealt with somebody else. You know, that's the way it works. It's not that much different from the Knicks and the Nets both trying to get Carmelo Anthony. I mean, the Nets can't sue and say, oh, you know, we were negotiating with you and you made a deal with somebody else. But if you really had agreed on the terms, then you got a different situation. If
right.
you really knew what it was going to be for. And, I mean, you know, we'll just have to see.
I mean, here's what the Vice President of Corporate Affairs for Labatt says. These negotiations with the NHL proceeded positively and in good faith to the point where the parties had agreed upon the terms of a renewal until 2014. Nothing happened to change that situation, unquote.
Right. So I just want to know, what, you know, when he says the terms, what terms is he referring to?
Yeah.
There must have been something they hadn't agreed on, otherwise they would have had a written agreement. I mean, I assume he's not going to say, well, we had this whole agreement all finalized, all the words were finalized, we just hadn't signed it. I mean, because if that were the case, that I think it would be pretty easy for them to win the case.
What if there's an email? Let's assume there was an email trail here, because nobody does mail anymore. Let's assume there's an email trail that substantiates that position. Do they have a case?
I think they could, yeah, sure.
Right.
If the email trail, and that's not an unlikely thing, what you say.
No, right.
That's a very good assumption. There's an email trail that shows, yep, yeah, okay, we agree on that amount of money. Yep, we agree on the dates, and yep, most of the other terms will be what we've had in the past, right? Right. Okay. Then yeah, you could have a pretty good case.
Would the Molson Coors deal then be null and void, or would it just be a case of some damages?
Not necessarily, right? That wouldn't mean necessarily that the other deal is nullified, because it wouldn't necessarily be Molson's fault particularly if they didn't know. Let's say Molson says, "Hey, we didn't know what was going on. Don't blame us." Then their contract's still good, but then the league would have to pay damages, you know, to the bots. Right. I mean, if it really got that far.
Well, we got to go here, but here's what I'm pretty sure I know. I don't know, but I'm assuming. Labatt has a deal, they think, in place at X amount. Molson comes flying in out of right field and pays double or triple or some outrageous amount of money. And the NHL goes, and can't say yes fast enough. Screw Labatt, we're going with these guys.
Well, what you might have...
That's what you're going to find out.
Maybe, but we might even have had the NHL might have said, "Look, you got to agree to pay for any costs in a lawsuit in case we get sued." Maybe that's part of it.
Well, that's interesting too.
Yeah.
All right, you keep thinking about trees.
Okay, you too.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.
Rob Becker, our legal analyst from New York, knows nothing about trees. And I don't think, if the trees don't die, it's got to be a lesser offense, doesn't it?
You would
How
think
can
so.
you charge them that the same thing, whether the trees die or they don't die?
Well, right now,
Or if they're not, what if they're not even sick? What if the trees like the herbicide and grow bigger and stronger? More leaves, more flowers in the spring. What if they're better?
That's good news for Harvey Updyke.